Finally, this afternoon here on Engage, a story inspired by the civic engagement of young people is making its world premiere in Orlando. The orchestral work called 17 will be performed at Steinmetz Hall at the Dr. Phillips Center with the Orlando Philharmonic on Friday. 17 shares the experiences of young Americans in their own words. Librettist and producer Portia Kamens conducted interviews with the young activists to create a script. She joined Engage to talk about the origin of 17 after the mass shooting at Parkland High School in 2018 and her experience working with the young advocates in the years that followed.
Oh, it's been just amazing. I mean, it's been when I think about the period of time that the development of 17 has encompassed, it started, at this time of great national and international sorrow after the Parkland shooting, when people were just bereft and feeling this how will we ever do anything about this? And then it extended to cover the kind of joyous, energy fueled response and March for Our Lives and all of the activism that followed, and then COVID and the kind of complete collapse of, especially for kids of that generation, life itself. And I kept interviewing them all across that time. And I feel like this is completely presumptuous, but I feel like from a great distance, I have watched many of them evolve from really young people, high school students, into like amazing, amazing emerging citizens of our country. It's really, I mean, I've got goosebumps just saying that out loud. They're all wonderful young people, and they've really given me solace knowing that here they come. I just kept meeting them. I'd find them on Twitter. I'd find them on Instagram, and I'd send them emails saying, "Will you ask your mom if she minds if I talk to you?" It's like this kind of thing. And it started small, so like, "Oh, I'll talk to you." And then we developed a rapport, and every single one of them has an amazing story to tell. The hardest part of this piece was winnowing down all of the energy and ideas and life experience they have into a 25-minute libretto.
Portia Kamens worked with composer Ron Ramin on 17, and they decided using the words verbatim of those young people coming into adulthood was the most effective means of storytelling for their piece. DeMontre Harris is one of the actors in 17. He recently graduated from DeLand High School and is a freshman at Florida Southern College. Harris joined Engage to talk about his involvement and experience.
I think right now, especially, we're facing some very scary times where our lives can change at any moment. This is a weird kind of place for America right now as we're sitting with all these disparities and all these questions of how we should progress. And I think that we all have this idea of finding this dream and this system for everyone. It's just different ways in which we want to go about it. And so I think that this piece in particular tackles so many of these questions that a lot of us young adults face. Like, what are we going to be doing? But also, how is this going to be affecting our children and people after us? Or will there be anything after us? And so it's this feeling of uncertainty. It's this feeling of hope and trying to hold on to any hope that we can right now. And then again, it's empowering and knowing your place and trying not to feel small in a society that can make you feel so mundane in its system. And so I think that really encapsulates where we are right now and how we're feeling as a society.
I saw that you felt like you were in awe of the message that 17 brought. Can you tell me why that
Yeah.
is?
This piece, I mean, you get all these young people and they're talking about all these things. And if you hadn't heard that they were from such and such high school or they had just recently graduated or they're from this college, you would have never guessed that these individuals were young people with these thoughts and these minds. And it's so intriguing how engaged and aware, especially this generation is, with all the things that's going on in the world. And it's so nice to see how much there's a want for a betterance of our society. And I think that this piece does such a beautiful job of showing how, even though there's all these different voices, there were numerous of interviews being happened. They're all being narrated by six voices, and they all come together to this one thought. And there's this one part we talk about again, this dream and this system for everyone. And I have this one line. It's really beautiful in this show about seeing these little glimpses of what it means to feel free. And it's just so powerful how beautiful this message is. And it shows how much there needs to be change. You know, if us young people can see it, why can't everyone else in the world see it? And there's this sort of an angst to it, but it's beauty in the chaos of it all. There's just this cacophony of hope and want brought amongst this piece. It's really beautiful.
Were there any moments you had preparing for this where some of the spoken word just really resonated with you in a way that you just felt heard? Like, that is my story.
Yes, there's one little section that's in here that one of our narrators talks about how taking up space and trying to take up space and telling her friends to take up as much space as she can because it's so important as a Black woman to do that, and how as Black people it's so important to take up those spaces so that if we do that, another Black person or another brown person will be able to fit into that space. And it's especially for me as an actor where we can feel so blindsided sometimes with our voices. And again, there's this constant motif of listen to our voices throughout this piece. And um, it's just so beautiful to encapsulate that thought, especially as an actor, of taking up those spaces and again telling your friends. Like, that's something so beautiful, and it's something I take with me. And that in particular, like, just it reminded me of my why and why I do what I do. And even if I feel like, you know, this space might not be perfect for me right now, it might be perfect for somebody else. And it's so important to take up that space and to tell that story. And so, yeah, that part really resonated with me. I mean, I read through that and it just touched me.
How did you feel about the music? I think you could make an argument that the younger age group, maybe they don't feel that connected or just aren't that familiar with like the type of orchestration, the orchestra that you're working with. How did it impact you?
It took me a second. Honestly, I think that when I was first going through this piece, I didn't listen to any of the references that we got from our composer. I didn't read through the script. I just listened to the orchestration first. And the orchestration in itself tells its own story. And I think that Portia and Ron both did an amazing job of creating this coalescence of thought between what's going on in the minds of these children and what's going on in the world around them, encompassing that with the orchestration. And it's so beautiful how much this composition swells, and it makes us feel like we're opening up this world and this imagination of the narration, but we're also being brought in, and it lets us hone into what's going on. And there's like little moments and quirks where we hear some of the thinking that's going on in the minds of those people that are being interviewed. And just when you put those all together, it truly does fit in and encapsulate everything that is going on within this piece. And that in itself is its own voice. And it's something really powerful that just adds on to just the weight of everything that's going on in this piece.
So you have all these moving parts. How do you make it make sense in front of an audience? You've got the music, you've got the spoken word, you're trying to put a story together. How do you make all of it work and meld?
I think the most important thing as an actor, especially when you're conveying the voices of somebody else, is to be as empathetic as possible, but also remembering the why of this piece. It's so much bigger than the six of our voices. It's, you know, even though we're telling the story of a small group of people that were interviewed and young activists, their stories are also highlighting the importance of everybody else around us. And so this piece, although, you know, it seems like we're just speaking through something that is important, we are also highlighting the ideals of all these young people and all these, you know, older people, anybody that has these thoughts and these questions and these answers about our reality right now. And when you think of it in full scale, you think of who this might be able to change, the catharsis of this piece, you know, how we can drive people to make that change. It's so important. And especially right now where it feels so easy to feel like, you know, one voice doesn't matter, one vote doesn't matter, one petition, one signature doesn't matter. They make up everything. And so again, it's taking up that space and creating that space. And you never know who's going to need this, who's going to want this. And so you don't perform for the people that already feel this, you perform for the people that you want to feel it. And when you take it to that direction, it just provides a whole new narrative as a performer.
And who would you like to see attend on Friday? Who should be there? Who do you want to be there?
Anybody that's felt small, anybody that feels like they have lost their community. I mean, it's so easy, especially here in Florida, to feel so outnumbered, so marginalized. And so I hope that those people know that there's power in their words. I hope that people that have questions about the absurdity of everything that is our social atmosphere right now and our systemic system, that they can come in and they feel heard, they feel seen, they feel answered. That this piece can drive its voices to many different audiences, and they can all come together and find something within this that fits their ideals and their ideologies. Or if they have any questions, they can get them answered. And so I guess I would say anybody with an open mind, anybody that wants to have an open mind, and anybody that's looking for an answer or a why. The last thing I would have to say is just this piece for me, it just reminds me of love and the simplicity of that life could be. And so I ask all audience members to come in with that mindset of what they want the world to be like.
Demontre Harris is one of the actors in 17 that premieres Friday at the Dr. Phillips Center Steinmetz Hall. Tickets are free. You do need to RSVP, though, to attend. The performance is going to be followed by a Q&A session. That's all for today's edition of Engage. I'm Sharon Stone. Thank you for joining us. All Things Considered is coming up following NPR News.